What did this...
I call James Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to take another call in relation to the Finance and Government Administration appropriations, this time in relation to Vote Ombudsman, the appropriation for Vote Ombudsman, and turn attention to the Office of the Ombudsman, to its revenues and to this government's attitude towards transparency and openness. And I'm delighted to see the Attorney-General in the House to have a discussion on this. So I note that in the appropriation, Vote Ombudsman for the year 2014 to 15 was $12.278 million, and in 2015 to 16 it has increased to $12.387 million. So there has been an increase of $110,000 approximately to cover the increased costs of investigation and the resolution of complaints. Now, $110,000 will buy you perhaps one more staff person and their associated costs. And what we know is that the Ombudsman's office is completely inundated with thousands of requests for assistance, thousands of complaints every year, because this government is suppressing information and abusing the process to an extent that is unparalleled since the Official Information Act was created. Now, I'm not saying that it is only the behaviour of this present government. It has been sliding towards this over the course of the last couple of decades, but things have gotten to the point now where essentially the system is now broken, and the government is using the underfunding of the Office of the Ombudsman to suppress the effectiveness of the Official Information Act. So in the Select Committee report, we note that there was an extremely high staff turnover in the Office of the Ombudsman. They are amazing people, they're good lawyers, they're extremely good public servants. But the burnout, due to the sheer weight of the complaints that each of them has to handle, the fact that they are not as well paid as they would be in the general market or even other parts of the public service, means that, and the repetitive nature of the work of dealing with this enormous volume of complaints means that it is extremely hard for the Office of the Ombudsman to hold on to onto their staff. And this, of course, also means that they are losing institutional knowledge as that turnover occurs. $110,000 additional dollars is not going to cut it in terms of solving those kinds of problems. We note, and the Select Committee report also referred to this, that when documents are released now under the Official Information Act, some as late as a year, as opposed to the 20 days that's specified under the Act, that often they are so full of redactions that they are basically completely meaningless. So there is a huge problem here. The problem is not to do with the Act itself. The Act is in extremely good condition. It's not to do with the Office of the Ombudsman. They are working extremely hard under very trying circumstances. But this government has turned the art of obfuscation into a really fine art, an absolutely high art, demonstrated some time ago by the fact that MB has got more PR people than it has health and safety inspectors, which gives you some idea of where their priorities are. That the priorities are on spin and public relations and not actually getting the job done. And when the cracks show in not getting the job done, they rely on the spin to get them through. And when the opposition tries to do its job of holding the government to account and speaking truth to power, that obfuscation and abuse of the Official Information Act are the order of the day. And this government is using the underfunding, the constant underfunding of the Office of the Ombudsman as a way of ensuring that it can stay unaccountable, so that the Office of the Ombudsman is unable to deal with the volume of complaints to do with the complaints that are coming through about that. So there are a couple of ways to fix this. We can increase funding to the Office of the Ombudsman, and I accept the government's position that it is operating within an extremely tight fiscal envelope at the moment, but this is to do with the nature of our democracy. And the other thing is to start acting in accordance with the Act, because that will obviously put less pressure on the Ombudsman, but to actually live in accordance with the Official Information Act and to live within its spirit.